I just stumbled onto a hidden pattern in VeChain's chart that honestly gave me deja vu. It's kind of like 2020 all over again for VET. And if I'm right about this, calm that we are in might actually be the start of an absolute storm. How does a 5x surge sound to you guys? Now I know it sounds a bit crazy, but stick with me here because what I found could change how you see VeChain forever. As a long-time VeChain VET investor, I've been through all of the quiet times and the crazy times too. And right now, something huge might be brewing. Today, I want to take you on a little bit of a personal journey, how I discovered a clue in VeChain's technicals that got me more bullish than ever before. Now I promise this isn't your typical price prediction hype. It's actually a story of patience, a couple of surprising discoveries, and why the next few months could be a wild ride for VET. By the end of this video, you're probably going to see exactly why I refuse to give up on VeChain and why I believe holding on to those VET tokens might pay off big time. And here's a quick note. We do have a free educational Discord server that is linked in the description below, where we chat about gems like this all the time. So come and join the community if you haven't done so already. All right, let's set the stage. VeChain's price has been pretty sleepy for a while, hovering around 1.6 cents. It sounds pretty dull, right? But if you've been in crypto for a minute, you probably know that sometimes dull is actually good. Dull can be the calm before the storm. And that's exactly what one analyst known as 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗋 actually called it. Now, he basically said, look, VeChain has this habit of moving sideways for ages. And just when everyone stops paying attention, boom, it breaks out. And the crazy part is that he's actually targeting about 10 cents for the next breakout, roughly a 5x jump from where we are. So when I saw that, my first thought was, hold on, did we just get a legit roadmap to 5x? But I don't take his word for it blindly. I started digging into the charts myself, and that is when the deja vu really hit. Flashback to 2020. VeChain was trading for fractions of a penny, boring, sideways, nobody really cared. Then, early 2021, out of absolutely nowhere, VET absolutely exploded with the bull market. Now, if you were around back then, you will remember, it felt like waking of a sleeping giant. Now, just jump to 2025. We saw that VET tumbled and grind down in the bear market, and over the past weeks, it's retested a price zone that we haven't seen since October 2020. Now, that exact zone marked the start of the last major bull run. So, when I realized this, I literally got chills. And trust me here, I'm not the type to hype myself into a frenzy. It was like looking at the old photograph and seeing the same old pattern, the same old setup, and right now in the present day. So, here's what's going on in plain English. VeChain's price has been trading in a tight range, basically stuck between 0.9 cents and 1.3 cents for quite a while. Now that's kind of been our support zone, where buyers have said, hey, VET's pretty cheap, I'm going to be loading up. And on the upside, of course, we've got resistance at around 3.5 to 5 cents. That is the ceiling in the past that we just couldn't really break through. Now, lately, VeChain's been chilling at around 1.6 cents, right above that accumulation zone. Something is different this time, though, right? The trading volume has actually been ticking up, and I'm seeing signs that big players, the so-called whales, are quietly filling their bags at these prices. Now, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗋𝗋 even noted that huge investors are likely buying here, storing energy for the breakout. And it's kind of like pressure building up behind a bit of a dam, right? Every day that VET doesn't crash lower is another day that those buyers are scooping up cheap tokens. And you know what happens when a dam builds up too much pressure, right? Eventually, it bursts. Now, am I saying with 100% certainty that VET is about to burst upwards to the moon? No, nobody can say that for sure, right? We talk about the risks and we need to talk about it probably for a second. And I'm going to give you my honest truth about all of that. But at least before we continue, let me drop a critical disclaimer so that we're all on the same page about this. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's get back to the exciting stuff. So why do I, personally, feel so optimistic about VeChain right now? And it's because it's not just one thing. It's actually like a perfect storm of several factors that are all lining up. Now, we've talked about the chart patterns looking pretty eerily similar to 2020. But it's also fundamentals and even the broader crypto landscape. Let's go ahead and hit the fundamentals first, because those often get ignored when everyone starts staring at lines on a chart, right? Well, VeChain isn't some meme coin running on promises. It's actually a project with real enterprise adoption. So think about this, right? In fact, just recently, VeChain got a serious nod from the big leagues, right? Keyrock, a global crypto investment and marketing firm, a market-making firm, I should say, they actually decided to join VeChain's network as a validator. Now, if you're not sure what all that means, basically, Keyrock is now actively running nodes to help verify transactions on VeChain's blockchain. They're literally investing resources to secure and participate in the network. That is huge. Let's think about it. Why would a major firm bother doing that if they didn't see any long-term potential? Now, to me, that is a vote of confidence that real players see value here beyond just the trading of a token. And that's not all. VeChain has been strengthening its position in areas that it originally kind of set out to dominate. Now, we're talking about supply chain management, logistics, even carbon tracking for sustainability. Now, these are real-world use cases. Now, just look at the on-chain data, right? The utility of V4, and that's the gas token for VeChain, by the way, and it is on the rise. More V4 being used means more transactions or operations are happening on VeChain's network. Now, in plain English here, in plain terms, people are actually using this network more and more. It's kind of like seeing more cars on a highway, right? It tells you that the highway is actually getting used and is valuable. Now, for a long time, critics said, nobody uses VeChain. But that narrative is slowly changing. And as a VET holder, that's music to my ears. Now, overlay all of those fundamentals with the much bigger picture, the crypto market cycle. Now, at the time of this recording, Bitcoin has been showing some strength. And if history rhymes, we all know what usually comes next. People throw the term around all the time, Altseason. I'm going to be likening this more to being something like a ETF season. But anyway, we're splitting hairs. When Bitcoin eventually takes a bit of a breather after a big run, investors often rotate into altcoins and solid projects like VeChain, especially ones still near their lows, right? Can see some explosive moves from there, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is guaranteed, of course, but the timing here could be impeccable. We have VET at a rather low, quiet, accumulative phase, just as the kind of broader market sentiment is picking up. It's a kind of like stacking dry wood and kind of dousing it in gasoline, right? It just needs a spark. Now, Bitcoin slowing down or a piece of good news, that could actually be the spark for VET. Now, speaking of news, let me share a quick personal anecdote. A few months ago, when prices were really down, I actually questioned myself, why am I still holding VET? Should I just move this into something that's actually moving, right? I'm sure some of you had that thought of your own investments, right? Now, it's tough to hold on through, at least hold on to something that's not necessarily trending when everything else seems to be popping off, right? But I remembered why I got into VeChain in the first place. Because back in the day, VeChain's vision of revolutionizing supply chain, it hooked me, right? Now, I'm a bit of a supply chain nerd. Don't laugh, I know. Right? The idea of kind of tracking products on the blockchain, from verifying your luxury handbags to your knockoffs to making sure that food products are stored at the correct temperatures. Right? That's all kind of relatively cool to me. Now, companies like Walmart China and others were rumored to be, or reported to be working with VeChain, and it just kind of seemed like a project with real muscle behind it. So I did held on, right? And the bear market tested a lot of people's convictions, mine included, big time. But seeing these charts now, the accumulation, the partnerships, the on-chain growth, it's a validating moment. It's kind of like, hey, maybe I was holding the right card all along. Now, let's circle back to the technicals for a second here, because I do want to highlight a couple more things that I found. And this is kind of where the nerd in me gets really excited. First, that support zone, around 1 cent, that's been kind of rock solid. Now, every time VET dropped or dipped near a penny, buyers, they stepped in pretty hard. Now, in October, during a market-wide flash crash, VET actually fell into that zone, around 0.009 to 0.013. And guess what? It got scooped right back up. Now, on the monthly chart, you can actually see a rather strong lower wick on the monthly candle. Now, for those who are not into all the chart lingo, a lower wick just means that at one point during that month, the price went way down. But by the end of the month, it sprang back up. Now, that tells me that buyers absorbed a lot of the sell-off. And, they said, thank you for the cheap VET, and just pushed the price back up, all in the same monthly candle. Now, that is a huge, it is huge. In fact, it's a classic sign of accumulation by rather strong hands. Secondly, after that October dip, VET's been basically stuck in a rather tight range. Now, this reminds me so much of late 2020, when Bitcoin was hovering, at least recovering and hovering around some decent levels, and altcoins were just kind of flat and waiting, right? Now, analysts are even saying that this looks like a re-accumulation phase, basically the period where smart money loads up before the next big cycle. Now, back in 2020, right before 2021's epic rally, hardly anyone was paying attention to VET. It was all about Bitcoin and Ethereum back then. And then boom, VET went from fractions of a penny to 28 cents at its all-time high in 2021. Now, here we are at 1 to 2 cents once again. History doesn't always repeat exactly, right? But man, it does often rhyme. Okay, let me just pause here for a moment, because you might be thinking, this all sounds great, but what if you're just seeing what you want to see? You know what? That's a fair question. Confirmation bias, it is a real thing. And as a VET investor myself, of course, I want it to go up. So I force myself to consider the other side of the argument. What if I am wrong? If the broader market tanks or some kind of black swan event hits crypto, then VeChain could certainly break that penny support and fall much further. Right? In a worst case scenario, maybe those bullish patterns do fail. It has happened to many projects in the past, right? And that is why I never recommend anyone go all in or bet the farm on a single coin. Now, I sure haven't. I diversify and I manage my risks, right? Part of that risk management, by the way, is being prepared on exchanges, the side of things too, right? Because let me just share a rather quick tip right here. I sign up, KYC, and test out as many different exchanges as I can. Ones that I, of course, trust, not FTX. Now, because you just never know when an exchange might go down, freeze your withdrawals, or worse, just go into liquidation, right? It's at the worst possible time too. Now, I've got a plan A, I've got a plan B, and a plan C for trading or cashing out if and when the time is needed. So, for example, I use a couple of different exchanges quite regularly, things like Blowfin and BitGet. These platforms that I've kind of grown to trust, and yes, I do use affiliate links for them, or have affiliate links for them, that support the channel here at no extra cost for yourself. Now, you can find all of the affiliate link exchanges that I use on my website, which is linked in the description down below if you are curious about the platforms that I personally use. Just remember, those links are affiliate links which do support the channel here, so it is much appreciated if you do sign up through those links. It costs you nothing extra, by the way. Anyway, the key is this. I don't rely on just one place to buy or sell my VET. Now, if suddenly one exchange has some issues, I've got some backups. Now, this is a strategy not many people actually talk about, but I do highly recommend considering it, right? Especially as we inch closer to what could be some very volatile and very exciting times for crypto. Now, let's get back to VeChain's trajectory. Assuming there's no catastrophe derailing the crypto market, what am I personally expecting to see? Well, I'm not here to make some wild moon boy claims. No, I'm here to connect the dots that are actually there. Now, I've got a well-known analyst that's driven targets of around 10 cents for the next breakout. Now, that would likely require a pretty strong bullish catalyst, perhaps Bitcoin breaking a new high, or major VeChain partnership announcements. Something along those lines could be the catalyst. Now, it might not happen overnight, but it could. Could it happen in the next kind of big altcoin season surge? I think it is very possible. Even a move to the big kind of resistance at around 3.5 would already be more than double VET's price today, and beyond the 5-cent region is another hurdle altogether. Now, once those levels start falling, of course, momentum can take over. Remember, crypto often feeds on itself. So when a coin breaks a key level, suddenly everyone wakes up to it, and FOMO can drive it even higher. So you can bet that I'm going to be watching if VET approaches 3 to 5 cents, because that could be the warm-up before the real shows start. I should also mention about the psychology here. A lot of folks have written off VET because it's old news. I mean, who remembers all the dino coins that people were talking about back in early 2024? That didn't age well, did it? Anyway, this old news, or maybe they just got burned from holding it at much higher prices, right? There's a little bit of FUD out there for sure. But trust me here, I know the feeling well. But it's funny how sentiment can flip. In a bull run, yesterday's kind of laggard becomes today's superstar. Now, it all takes... All it really takes is a bit of a narrative shift. Now, VeChain's narrative is actually getting stronger, right? A real-world adoption, ESG-friendly use cases. Sustainability is a huge narrative these days, of course. And the active enterprise network. So if the market starts rewarding fundamentals once again, then something like VeChain that's been quietly building could actually get a big re-rating in the public eye. Now, I've seen it happen before. It's kind of like those movie actors who were big a few years back, went off the radar, then suddenly they get cast in the blockbuster and boom, they're an A-lister all over again. Now, crypto has its own kind of beans, or has-beens if you will, and its own comeback stories. Now, I have to kind of have a feeling here that VeChain could be one of those comeback stories that a lot of people don't expect. Now, I do want to address one more thing to keep us all grounded here. Taking profits. Now, I know I'm bullish. Why talk about selling? Well, because it's actually rather important. Now, my plan, if VET starts doing well and starts reaching some of these targets, is to take some profits along the way. Dollar cost averaging out, as they would say. Now, it's not because I've lost faith, but because I'm just a smart investor that likes to practice that. Now, like I said, no one went broke taking profits, right? So, if VET hits 5 cents, I might just skim a tiny little bit. If it hits 10 cents, a little bit more. Differently kind of, definitely taking some profits off the table, I think is the right way to articulate it. Just to reward the patience and to reduce some of the risk. Now, I'll still keep a core holding because I do see VeChain entering a new era and potentially new all-time highs. Right, the upside could very well go beyond and well beyond 10 cents in a full-blown crypto bull run market. All-time high was around 28 cents after all. But having a strategy before things go parabolic, it helps avoid all those emotional decisions later on. And I want you all to think about your own strategies here too. Maybe it's selling, or at least setting some sell targets. Maybe it's about staking some VET to earn some passive income whilst you hold. Whatever suits your own style. Just have a plan, right? If you want to discuss strategies or need a sounding board, then our Discord community is a great place to start. There's lots of experienced people down there who've seen multiple cycles over. All right, so let's wrap this up. I found a pattern and a convergence of different factors that suggest that VeChain could be poised for something big. Now, I've started and shared my story with you guys and my findings here, and I hope that it gave you some food for thought and maybe a little bit of excitement about what's possible in the future. Even if you're not a VeChain holder yet, I think that this is a great case study in how crypto markets actually work. The quiet accumulation, the fundamentals growth behind all the scenes, and then bam, right? The breakout when you least expect it. Now, I, for one, am buckled up for what's next. VeChain has surprised us all before, and it might just surprise us all again. So if you've enjoyed coming down this rabbit hole with me today, you can do me a favor by hitting the like button and the subscribe button and joining the journey. And heck, check out the next video. It's queuing up somewhere on the screen right now, and I've got another crypto story that you're just probably not going to want to miss. So I'll see you in the next one.